Good morning, everyone. A very happy International Women's Day to all of you. I am Anupama Kapoor, founder at Reboot, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to this wonderful Equal Half Genderlogue. Let me start by sharing what the Equal Half Genderlogue is all about. Over the years, working with the Reboot community, interacting with women, mentoring them, conducting workshops, realized that talking to women alone will not change the world the way we want to see change. It will not give us the planet 50-50. We have to engage men in the conversations around gender equality and also around what stops them from embracing gender equality. Equal Half, launched in 2018, is a safe space to enable men and women from corporate India to have these discussions and share a wider, diverse perspective so that we can actually see some change in Indian workplaces. It gives me great pleasure to have this super accomplished panel here today in the Equal Half Gender Law. So welcome everyone. And I'd request all of you to take a couple of minutes and introduce yourselves. And Simar, over to you. I'd like to start with you.
Thanks, Anu. It's a great honor and a privilege to be a part of this esteemed panel. Happy Women's Day to all of you. I work with UBS in their India operations, and I run the investment banking business for them. I did the transition to UBS during the pandemic, or sometime in September when the COVID aftermath was underway. And prior to being in UBS, I have spent about 14 years with HSBC and multiple years with GE and Genpact. I am a huge advocate of diversity. In my last job and in the current job at UBS, I also chair the Women in India network that we have for UBS India. And I look forward to this dialogue.
Super. Over to you, Himangani.
Thanks, Anupama. And yes, I'm excited about being part of this conversation today. And very happy Gender Equality Day is what I'd like to wish everybody. I have been born and brought up in Mumbai in a very traditional hierarchical joint family. So that itself taught me about challenging the role of women in the first place. I have a background in psychology with a postgrad in human resources. I joined Dr. Otkar in 2011, and one of the reasons how I came about to join Otkar itself is a story that kind of helps state about women and the philosophy of Reboot coming back after a career break, because I took a career break for a good 8 odd years while I had children, and I continued doing freelancing. I continued doing a lot of consulting. Otkar actually gave me an opportunity to come back and ask for what I wanted, which in terms of work, which was flexibility in working, flexibility in not coming in on Saturdays, leaving office by 4 o'clock so I could be home with my children. And I'm really excited to be a part of this panel and help inspire other people. And over back to you, Anupama. Thank you.
Thanks, Himangani. Rubina?
Hey, hi Anupama, and thank you for the opportunity of being part of such an esteemed panel. I have done my master's from BITS Pilani and have worked in companies like Wipro, Citrix, and now at VMware. At VMware, I helped drive the VMware on VMware program for APJ, and I also help drive the innovation and patent strategy at VMware. So, in few words, I'm looking forward to this conversation because there is so much more we need to do. And besides my day job at VMware, I also wanted to mention that I am a passionate women in tech evangelist. I have driven a lot of strategic programs related to bringing back women to work, and happy to share the impact that it results in. So thank you.
Super. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to some inputs on women in tech too. Shantanu, welcome aboard.
Thank you, Anupama. It feels great to be part of such an accomplished panel. Really looking forward to the interaction today. Talking about me, I am an MBA and with close to 2 decades of work ex. Started off with Eureka Forbes in professional cleaning segment. Have been into financial services for a good close to 18 years now. I had mortgages business for Aditya Birla Finance. And prior to this, I spent about 9 years with them. Prior to this, I spent close to 9.5 years with Standard Chartered Bank in mortgages, going through the ranks across various roles. Yes, looking forward. Thank you.
Super. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Welcome to the Equal Half Genderlogue. I'd like to start with a glaring statistic. In the first month of the pandemic alone, 15.4 million women lost their jobs in India. This is between March and April 2020. That works out to about 37% of the women's workforce. And as we know that the women's workforce anyway is an abysmal figure. So given this disproportionate impact, because the number of men, of course, they were also impacted, but is much less. Do you think it's time to address and focus our rebuilding strategies on women? And given that, do you think that how we approach the whole improving the gender ratio in corporate India? For example, there is also research that tells us that men believe that for every woman taking up a job, there is one job less for a man. So is it really a zero-sum game? Simar, I'd like to ask you.
So Anu, this is definitely not a zero-sum game. There are enough and more opportunities for the entire workforce across all genders to be able to work. It is a big corporate myth, and you did bust the myth. And the more we bust it, the more conversations we have about it, the more we shine the light on it, can we be able to bust that myth. One big challenge for women in workforce is a lot of educated women are not in the Indian workforce. And very recently, I was having a discussion with someone else, and one statistic which was glaring was the big difference between India and China is in China, about 89 women work for every 100 men, while in India, that statistic or that number is just 34. And unless we unblock that educated women working in our workforce, we will always lose this battle.
Right, that's true. So, and are these figures, when you say 34 on 100, is that like an urban figure? Because the figures actually, the combined Indian figures are different.
So these are the urban figures that Ego Monk had published.
Right. Okay, all right. Thoughts on this? Rubina, any thoughts from you?
Yes. So I would, have two things that I would like to bring up. One thing is taking help. I think, women can stay in the workforce if they just reach out and ask for help. Sometimes family support is the best support when the daycares are closed. So not to feel ashamed asking help from maybe even your mother or mother-in-law. And secondly, I would really like to challenge that with every woman getting a job, someone is losing their job. Because in my perspective, with every woman getting a job, 3 new jobs are created. One is for the cook, second for the nanny, and third for the driver. So for every woman whom you enable to work, I think 3 new jobs are created, and that helps uplift the economy altogether. So that's my perspective.
Yeah, that's a nice thing to share, Rubina. Though this all the questions that I will ask you today are research backed. Yeah, and I've actually had sessions. You'll be surprised. I once took a session with postgrad MBA students in Mumbai, in a B school in Mumbai, and I actually had a couple of guys who walked up to me at the end of the session, and they said, "Why do you want to disrupt this culture? It's working out so well that men are working and providing, and women are looking after the home and the family. And this way, there'll be, if women vie for the same jobs, then one, we will have less jobs, and two, who will manage the home front, who will manage the family. So it's a good thing going. Why do you want to disrupt it?" So, I'm not so sure if if all the men agree with you, Rubina. But yeah, I mean, this is a research-backed question, and it's also what the West feels. Anyway, moving on. So, we believe that there is a way that we are all brought up in. In fact, I remember speaking to a leading diversity and inclusion professional who's from Britain, and she actually said something very interesting. She said, in India, you have a career break culture. So while we've been, working around career breaks for the last 7, 8 years now, I personally have, I never thought of it as culture. It wasn't, the word culture didn't strike me. And then I started thinking that yes, it is our socialization that does determine who we are, our identities. And despite the fact that women have now broken many barriers, so you see women who walked in space, women are behind rovers landing on Moon and Mars. They are also now pilots. They are in combat in some countries. So women seem to be breaking all these barriers and these social mindsets. So Himangani, this question I'd ask you: why do you think we can't say the same for men? Why don't we see men in typically, traditionally, what we see as women's roles of caregivers? So, for example, nurses, we don't see enough men as nurses, as school teachers, as stay at home dads, if you please.
Thank you, Anupama. So that's actually quite an interesting question. And I think there's a lot of that nurture. Traditionally we say every individual is shaped by nature and nurture. Nature is what they inherit, and nurture is what the environment provides. And if we look at the nurturing environment that traditionally all of us grow up in, men have always strongly had a provider role to play. And that comes with, the agenetic recognition of personality characteristics, of them taking charge, of them being in control, whereas women have traditionally always been nurtured to think of themselves more focused on more of a communal trait, which is more towards relationship building, which is more towards caregiving roles. That has a huge factor to play. So it's also the role modeling that they've seen growing up. It's also the education system, where there's more emphasis on STEM education for men and more towards HEED, which is your healthcare, early education, and domestic career focus in terms of humanities, etc. focus for the women who land up in the education part. I think also going forward, I think there's been a lot in the movement per se, which has focused more on recognizing that women should break through into areas which men dominate, such as the examples you used in the beginning itself about women firefighters, women walking in space, women in combat, etc. So there's been a lot of budget allocation there. There's been a lot of focus, a lot of argumentation to support that, but very little to actually support areas such as education or caregiving or domestic careers, where there's been a lot of focus on to say, but why are we not looking at breaking this? So it's been a combination of what men are already good at, and we focused on saying women should try and compete in that space rather than saying, okay, how come men have not really entered that? Because it's attributed more to internal factors that men possibly are not motivated enough or something. So there's nothing going wrong against it. So nobody's speaking up, nobody's trying to challenge this. And because the provider role is so strongly still entrenched in the men, they're not breaking away and trying to open up this arena at all.
Right. What about you, Shantanu? What do you think?
I think I'm in agreement with Himangini here. I think there are two core factors at play here. One is the traditional stereotyping, which has been happening, and I think it's been done over generations now, which is at play. Somehow, which tends to stereotype women into a certain kind of non, focusing on career choices, which are more to do with education, more to do with caregiving, a more not outgoing kind of job roles. Therefore, there has been that movement to try and encourage, emphasize women breaking into so-called men bastion in terms of space, in terms of defense, and rightfully so. These create those examples, a sort of momentum in the active conscious space to change the narrative. But what has been missed out, and I think it needs some focus, is how about encouraging, how about actually talking to men about caregiving or education or some of these other areas which are predominantly so-called thought to be reserved for women, to be also career choices, to be areas where men can and should be looking at. I think it's also about the social conditioning. Now let's just think about it for a moment. Let's talk to a mother about her son taking up any of these career choices. A mother who is probably looking at who's got a daughter and a son, and you speak to the mother about saying, let's look at something which is non-STEM for your son. And I'm pretty sure it doesn't land well on her. And I think that is the kind of conditioning. So I think we start today, and maybe a decade or so hence, there can potentially be some change. But I think it's much more ingrained, and that's
Right.
what I feel about it.
Right. So, Shantanu, I agree with you that these are societal, definitely our early years conditioning. But having said that, it's not just the mother, it's also the father. It's a collective
Completely, completely.
decision. And in most households, it's the father dominating the career discourse or the education discourse, especially for kids who are older in high school, etc. So, Simon, what do you think? Do you think that, so again, research back, do you think uh, when we talk about the care economy, and when I say care economy, I mean all these pieces which are your, wherever you are in contact with some form of caregiving, whether it's school children, whether it's the frontline health workers, all these spaces, you always have, it's a bit of a catch-22. Are we paying these sectors less because we value them less? And therefore, the fact that women working there has something to do with it, because all sectors where men work tend to be higher paid, if you look at everything else, than the care economy. And again, this is research back. I can see you're smiling, Simar, but this is research back. It's not something I thought of last night.
Totally agree. I'm sure, uh, coming from data background, you can create whatever correlation you want to create. But that said, uh, there is also research which says when men go into this care economy, they get a glass escalator, and they in the school they become deans and they become principals, while women
Yes,
don't and
yes,
get those jobs or those positions, and not just
yes.
schools but hospitals and the same thing. So is it that there is a difference? Well, there is a difference because of the fact that, like Shantanu said, we have over the years culturally created an environment where the expectation is the woman is a primary caregiver. It does not matter whether it is childcare or elder care. Women has to work 4 to 5 hours at home and then also do a separate job or
Right,
compete for that separate job, which the man has to do. And the man only has to spend 20 minutes at home and feel super excited or super elated about the fact that he has contributed.
right,
And it is a given. It is a given with the way people have been brought up, that it is the way where kids at home see a treatment between a girl child and a male child, or just male children, and so on and so forth, where it is our social media, it is our TV, it is our TV series, TV movies, which continues to depict the fact that girls are taught cooking or sewing and stitching, while men or boys are sent out to go play sports or do science or do stuff like that. This
right.
is the inherent narrative that we have to change, and unless we change that narrative, I don't think this will get sorted. That said, to your question about are these jobs less prioritized, I remember as a child, my dad used to joke about the fact that the person who is the least in the overall, school grade system becomes a teacher because that job is not valued at all. Uh, and it is the teacher who actually creates the culture, or creates that light in the child. Do
Right.
we value these jobs? We don't value these jobs today.
We don't at all, at all. In fact, and I'm sure the other women on the panel will agree with me, that one of the things that many women and young women, when they are making the decisions around careers and they want to work, is that if you take up a teaching job, it will help you manage your personal life later, your married life later, and motherhood later, because you'll be getting holidays at the same time as kids and so on and so forth. Of course, in some sectors, this has changed because some schools are now run pretty professionally, pretty much like mini corporates. But having said that, it is perceived as a job which will allow a woman time at home and time at work, both ways.
True.
Right. So, given that we have these biases and, consciously and unconsciously, and even though we may consider ourselves a woke panel, there may still be some unconscious biases that play out in our daily lives because, as I'm sure Hemangani would agree, it's not something that you can overnight change about yourself. Do you think these biases manifest themselves at the workplace? Rubina, what do you think? Do you think these impact how we hire women, how we appraise them, give them opportunities to travel or take up challenging assignments, or even promote them?
Yes, great question, Anupama. So, unconscious bias is something we cannot do away with. Our brain has a way to categorize information, and that's how we survive, or we are able to create associations. So we have to live with it. But how do we make the best use of it? I think number one, being aware that we all go through unconscious bias. We are all products of our social conditioning. It's very important that we take that minute to realize it and then take the next right step. So some of these steps, I would like to share what we have done to create that environment for women. At VMware, we have a couple of programs where we are reskilling women who have taken a career break, which is also known as VM Inclusion Tara. And we have another program, which is also VMware Nakshatra, as part of which we are giving women who have been on a career break job opportunities. What we are doing is, because these women have been on a career break, while hiring them, we are not looking at 100% fitment for the profile. We are asking the hiring managers to be okay with even a 60 or a 50% profile fit, and you will be amazed with the outcome that has happened. So what happens is, when someone who doesn't get an opportunity is given an opportunity, they always outperform. So these women whom we have hired, with just, I would say, a 50 to 60% profile fit, they have hit the ground running. They are performing just amazing in their profiles. So I would request, all the leaders of various organizations, if you can open up programs that give these women a chance to return to work, you'll be amazed by the, the outcome and the results that come by.
That's awesome. That's awesome. But here's a question, Rubina. So every time I have a discussion around gender equality, I'm always reminded that meritocracy is very important. Of course, and slightly out of the purview of this discussion is that meritocracy itself comes with a lot of privilege. So, but as I said, it's out of the scope. But doesn't the 50 to 60% profile fitment that you're speaking of then, in a way, challenge merit-based hiring?
So that's what, I want leaders to challenge. Let's choose to challenge the status quo. We have been trained to think that, okay, only the students who have passed out from prestigious universities, they are going to perform well. Try hiring from a tier 2 city. I come from a tier 2 city. So, choose to challenge. We also have certain programs where we have built outreach into tier 2 colleges so that, we can inspire girls in those colleges to come and join. So I think there's no better day than today to choose to challenge the norm and, just take a risk, hire at least, if not, you're able to create many recs related to that. Even if you can hire 1 or 2 women as a pilot program, see how they perform, and you'll be amazed how they beat the statistics.
So I must share here because it somehow is similar. So the foreign university college admission process in 21 especially America, has dropped what they call the SAT testing this year. Okay, it's a testing where it's basically an aptitude test in certain subjects where you have to get a certain score to be able to apply to a certain college. So worldwide, students who are aspiring for certain universities will not even try if because SAT they don't score well on SAT because they have dropped the SAT scores this year. Many more students have applied to these universities, and we have got through who would not even have applied because of the SAT exam. So I think while it's an example from a different industry, I think it fits what you're saying pretty well. That is just about opening your mind and allowing a larger space, and you'll be surprised with what you can actually hire into your organization.
Absolutely agree, Anupama.
So, Shantanu, what do you think? Do you think, and I'll give you a little bit of context here. So, I have been working with Equal Half for 3 years now, and I am so passionate about it, and so, I believe in it so strongly that I feel that maybe there's even need to have more conversations with men than we have with women on gender. Okay, but every time it's not easy for me to convince corporate India about this because the belief in the workplaces is that how men behave at home, whether it's household chores or caregiving or involvement with children, they believe it's not their, the organization's responsibility is only while the employee is in the office and not what is happening at home. It's their personal life. So, for example, I will have a paternity leave policy, but I can't, hold a workshop with the men in my organization explaining to them why it's important for them to take paternity leave, right? So, how do you think that we don't have an impact on people's personal lives as organizations? And I say this knowing very well that workplaces are a microcosm of society. But isn't corporate India in a position to do much more in the reverse?
So I think there is a lot which can be done, should be done, and I think from the perspective of Aditya Birla Finance, which is part of ABC, there's a lot which is being done, getting done, and I think I'll respond to your query from the perspective of financial services as a sector. This is a sector which has seen, thankfully so, a lot of women being in leadership positions and doing really very well. What I realized through the last almost 18 years in being in lending myself is that the bias of women not wanting to possibly get into, let's say, a sales kind of role, which forms a very large part of the job, let's say, availability, or the number of roles available, and which results in subsequent growth opportunities. People do prefer a lot of back office roles. In fact, I have seen quite to my dismay that a lot of people would actually want to a lot of women would want to keep their dreams aside or their ambitions aside just to kind of work because they have to work. They need to go back and support the family. They need to, if it's a sales sort of role, there may be more working hours, and therefore they would compromise on the career bit. And I think in terms of not just about men being sensitized in terms of picking up more, participating more on the household chores, which obviously is a must. I think I believe in terms of women having more diversity at the workplace. It's also about I think affirmatively making each and every girl and the woman be aware of what their career dreams are, their aspirations are, and as leaders, I think it's incumbent on all the leaders, be it a male or a female leader, business leader, to kind of encourage, create the platform where those dreams or those ambitions are they are made to realize that they can and they should be going after it, create an environment where those can take wings. Um, uh, Biases, unconscious biases, is something which would be definitely at play and at loggerheads at what I'm saying. But these can be easily managed by institutionalizing, having processes, by institutionalizing mechanisms where these biases can be negated, which is what a lot of reward organizations, including mine, they try and put in place so that these are not at play. But I think the key thing is to go out there while working on men, also work on encouraging women to take up roles and really go after the career goals. Make them believe and realize that it's not only just men who should be aspiring for a career growth in corporate world. I think that would make a difference. We have this big thing about larger than life examples for inspiring women. For example, women breaking into main bastion space, defense, so on and so forth. I think there's a need to create examples out of our daily lives within our organizations, celebrate a lot of these success stories within small and large ones, so that that works as encouragement for women. It makes men in the workplace, in the immediate vicinity, realize and celebrate and be more aware about diversity. I think that to my mind is what would make the game change.
Right. Hemangini, what are your thoughts on this?
So, all research has shown that when any corporate lands up having a program for encouraging women, they usually have only about a 34% chance of success. Where a program becomes more effective is when they engage the men in to participate, and then the dynamics actually change drastically, with about a 96% of such companies actually report a success when men are engaged in the effort to actually push the women forward. And, I think, like Shantanu also just touched upon, I think one of the critical parts in encouraging this as a process in the organization is not to work so much on debiasing of individuals and, unconscious bias trainings, but maybe just debiasing processes per se, whether it's in the hiring process, whether it's performance rating, whether it's a salary process. As soon as you start working on actually looking at all the biases that are there in the process and eliminating those, you actually create a sustainable process that can continue fostering this, and it's not individual dependent. And the other part that I feel is of great value, and I've seen it, is also when you have mentoring of women, and that too by the men, not just women mentoring other women, but also men. And like Shantanu also touched upon, is actually encouraging the women to challenge their biases that they face, their own convictions, their own patterns of feeling guilty, which actually plays a huge, huge role. And that's a discussion I very often have with some of the men in my life, to say, why is it that the men don't feel guilty or ever carry feelings of guilt if they've not been home to put a child to sleep, or if they haven't been there when a child has an exam or requires some medical attention. But a woman is perpetually battling feelings of guilt and that I put my work first or something else came before my child. And I think challenging that is something, or somebody to mirror that back to you sometimes and encourage you to look at your own self-awareness and your own attitudes towards it, is also helping you challenge your own biases, which are inherent in the way we look at ourselves sometimes in roles in the corporate world.
Right. True. So, Simar, I know that you have done a lot of work in the inclusion space prior to your UBS role. I know UBS, you just started there. So do you think, I mean, it's already established globally by organizations like United Nations that involving men will further the gender equality goal at a faster pace. So do you think, from your experience of doing great work in this space, do you think men can act as catalysts in creating a gender equal corporate India?
Absolutely, Anupama. And that is exactly the reason why I'm chairing the WIN network here at UBS and not a woman leading the WIN Women's Network. It's a big misnomer that a women's network needs to be driven by women. It becomes self-fulfilling, like Mangani said, the same biases just keep getting repeated time and time again. And
Yes.
in my experiences, both at HSBC and at UBS, I think one big thing in my experience that works really well is, yes, returning career, returning women programs or mid-career break programs, take two programs, different names, different organizations, have been very successful. The only challenge is you still need to bring the woman who's still on the cusp to say, is it fine if I was to leave my child at home? Is it fine? What will that guilt feeling be? What will someone else say? What will my mother-in-law say? What will my parents say? And so on and so forth. Uh, it takes effort in bringing them across the line. And in HSBC, what we used to do was we used to have a mentoring program both with senior leaders, men leaders, and other leaders, and also returning women who could then, informally help share their experiences, their learnings with regards to how it has worked and whether or not it has worked. But just more than solving for the leaky pipeline, I think the other big piece that I've seen or experienced, Anupama, is the sticky floor. Women don't move from their roles. They don't apply for the jobs. They don't. They are less likely to apply for a job that they are not 100% confident of, in comparison to a man who would, even if he is 50% there, will put his or her hand to take that job. And I think just these talent nudges that mentors can do or provide can make a big difference. And it also does make a big difference in breaking the glass ceiling. So we have a big focus drive around mentoring program, mentoring for talent uh, specifically. And in HSBC, we have just recently started something last year, which was any job that was advertised internally, we would first run it past women talent in the talent, just to knock them or nudge them and say, hey, this is a job, are you interested? And what had started off from a hypothesis that, well, it might feel biased or it might just be radical, what we ended up realizing was in most jobs, when tapped on the shoulder, the woman would say, yes, I'm very excited or interested. And when you interview, you eventually find that the woman was more capable than the men candidates. But without tapping, in almost all cases, they had not even applied for the job. And I
So
was a
they
part of that experiment.
to put themselves forward.
Absolutely. I was a part of that experiment where in that final round of the interview, I asked each and every woman who had been nudged and who came back to ask the question to say, when you were looking for a job and you think you could do this job and this is something that you would like to do, why did you not apply in the first place? And you get all kinds of answers.
Interesting. So I think I've already heard a couple of, in fact, three suggestions in the panel that can be easily and adopted by many organizations, best practice right away. I think I hope that we are able to take this message to a larger number of corporate folks out there. So
Anupama, can I just add on one part to Sima's
sure.
last one?
Yeah.
So Sima, I agree with what you said 100%. And just one point to add on, what I also very often find is sometimes women are just scared to ask for what they really need to help them come back to work. If only they could raise their hand to say, I need this made possible for me to get this dream job or this dream role, and I can fulfill it basis this. But very often they're just reticent to step forward and ask. And I would encourage all women to just raise their hand to say, at least ask, what do you have to lose? You anyways in your mind have a thought to say, it's not going to happen for me. What do you have to lose by just asking? And so we really try and drive this whole thing, ask, don't assume at Hotka, to try and encourage people to step forward. It's much better than leaving it unanswered in your own question, in your own head, and just having that answered in a negative manner for yourself.
True. And something I learned over 20 years ago when I was a black belt at G with my dear colleague Sima here is as you me. Assume means that's what you are. As stroke you stroke me. So that's a good message to take back. Rubina, any last thoughts on this question of men
Yes.
and
Yes. So just to add to that, men play a very important role as a sponsor. Because at the workplace there are usually men at the leadership positions. So besides being a mentor, I know there are a lot of mentoring programs which are happening across various organizations. If men can also sponsor one woman, for a program, or based on their potential, of course, that makes a huge difference, because sometimes women don't have access into the inner circles, or they may not be knowing of some great opportunities coming up. That's where I would love for men to be an advocate and sponsor women, bring up their names in leadership positions, and help them be a part of strategic programs. So
Awesome, awesome. In fact, I'll quickly share that last year, or actually 2019, I partnered with an organization which is at the very forefront of DNI initiatives globally, and I was doing a focus group discussion, and as always, there were about 30% women in the room. And when we reached the question on, do you think women are paid less in your organization than men for the same jobs, etc.? All the men said no, and the women said yes. So in the same room. So this is how different, even the most, amazing work being done in the DNI space globally. But this is the reality, one. And two, it's the reality of how it's perceived by the different genders. So we are also biased, Right. I think it's time for that question, which is the essence and the theme of Women's Day globally. So, very quick answers from all of you, almost like a Karan Johar buzzer round, if you please. So, choose to challenge. What do you choose to challenge, Rubina?
I would choose to challenge the norm where women cook and help in the household chores, and they're not looked down upon or made fun of. That's the norm I would challenge.
Absolutely. Super. I love that. What about you, Shantanu?
I would choose to challenge the fact that a lot of women actually don't um, uh, feel okay to keep their aspirations aside, especially at work. So I would challenge that to see a lot of them go to leadership, take up leadership roles.
Awesome. Himandini, over to you. What do you choose to challenge this Women's Day?
So I choose to challenge the word feminist, which is often regarded as a bit of a negative term. But I think men and women both should not be scared to use the word feminist, and men and women should equally stand for it by striving for self-awareness and confronting their biases.
I love that. I love that. I'm a feminist and I love that you brought it up. And Simar, I'll make it slightly tough for you. What do you choose to challenge of men?
So, okay. So I choose to challenge the fact that we need to get rid of our inherent biases, frankly. I know. And I don't think there is any job that a man can't do or a woman can't do. It is an equal world, and we all have a role to play in making this an equal world.
Absolutely. And I choose to challenge all men and women to help men try to take these roles when they are trying. We should support them. We shouldn't question why they are stay at home. We shouldn't question why they are not working and bringing in the money, and why are they doing what they're doing as mothers, as mother-in-laws, as fathers. We should not make it about their masculinities and manhood. I choose to challenge toxic masculinities. So, as last words on this very interesting panel, I'd like each one of you to share your thoughts on what role can leaders like yourselves. You've worked hard over the years. Some of you over 20 years. You're veterans, and you are in a position of privilege today where you can make greater, deeper impact. What role can leaders like you play in forging an equal future at work? Anyone?
So UBS has a very strong male ally program, Anu, and it is. I think it's a best practice. Had we known about this in HSBC, it would have been great. So I want to share a couple of minutes about it. So effectively, male allies are allies, and clearly men who lead or break the biases against women. It's largely around all diversity, equality, and inclusion initiatives. And I've signed up to become the first male ally in India, and I've started this Women's Day program. The big challenge is when I was looking or doing some research, the big challenge is about 69% of the next generation of youth, which is not in education, not in training, or not in employment, is women. Which effectively means that even in the future, we don't have a very positive, equal world unless we start bringing them back into the workforce, and we do a lot more to get them empowered and get them engaged.
So return to work programs need a big focus. And on that note, I must quickly share that I recently got a chance to know more about the Tara VMware Inclusion Program, and they have formed this very nice collaboration with other organizations, and they already have a pool of 9,000 women who are trained with their Tara program. So what stops more organizations from just jumping right into this and collaborating and hiring from this pool?
So this is the first time I've heard about this, but Rubina, I am definitely reaching out to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Simar. I think we definitely need allies like you, And, Anupama, just to add to it, especially, women in India, a lot of them drop out of the workforce, soon after they get married or after they have kids. And that's why, VM Inclusion Tara is so much focused at bringing back the women back to work. We are certifying them so that, they are up to date with technology. And it's a selfless program wherein, organizations can hire from the pool and definitely benefit from bringing great technical women back to work. So
awesome. I think it's also a good time for me to do the plug-in saying I have a community of women returners who are from diverse domains and industries and experiences. So by all means, share your opportunities with the community, and it's something, a platform that both women and organizations can leverage. So Himangani, I'd like to ask you now the same question.
There's been some kind of research estimate that says that our GDP could grow by as much as 27% if only we actually had equality, because with equality would come prosperity. And having said that, I think at the workplace, what we really need to drive is, yes, of course, speak it out, call it out, have processes in place, anti-bias, all of that. But I think we also need to really consciously drive a he for she movement. And that would make all the difference in the workplace. And we as leaders can definitely play a role there by engaging with more men in the workplace and asking them to step forward, step out, call it up, and take stances.
I couldn't agree more. Passionately and vehemently. Shantanu, what are your thoughts as a leader?
So, obviously, couldn't agree more with what Simar and Hemangani have stated. But what leaders or what people in roles who can make a difference can and definitely should be doing is keep on going back and checking. Obviously, there are going to be processes in evolved organizations in place which work towards counteracting the set biases or the unconscious biases. But is it really working? One. Number two, mentor, partner with the women cohort in the team, in the larger, which is the area which can be influenced by the concern, and really encourage them. I think that is what is missing is getting people to realize what giving them purpose of building a larger career, and rather than just be content with a small role. As Simar was mentioning earlier, that even if there are roles which get publicized within the company, any organization for that matter, there are hardly any women who come forward to apply for those roles unless someone actually really goes across, speaks to them, and they also agree that yes, this is something which I could have done. So I think culturally, and it has to be done very consciously, is to reach out, is to have conversations where each person is, and this is something which would obviously work well for the organization, right? As for male employees, so for the women employees is to give them a sense of purpose around their career. That's what I think I would be focusing on, yeah, which I have been doing and I'll be focusing on. Yeah.
Super. Thank you. Rubina, do you have any other thoughts to share?
Yes, absolutely, Anupama. I would like to share a little different perspective here. So we have talked about, how organizations, what they can do to bring about the equality or the parity that we are looking forward to. We need to target this at the grassroots level also. So if each one of us who is a leader is also bringing up men and women of tomorrow, if you have kids, I think we need to teach them how to treat everyone as an equal, not to have the bias. We need to create those conditions so that bias doesn't exist at home, and we have to start it now, because we each one of us as evangelists know how we are struggling with folks at the workplace trying to drive programs. Now, these people are already conditioned since 20 to 30 years, right? It's difficult to change their mind. So if we want to make it easier for the future generation, we need to start today. So just one small strategy I wanted to share is, I have been telling my daughter a real life women hero story every night for the past 8 years. And there have been cases wherein, she says, "Oh, is that really possible, Mama? Can a woman be that?" So she has started to challenge bias, and I would encourage each one of y'all with young kids, probably, to share those stories with them. Those stories are deep rooted, hidden. They need to come out, and rather than Barbie dolls, they need to learn about the real women heroes. And secondly, spouses. Women can do only so much, and they need a very strong support system. And that begins with a spouse who helps in the household work. And we as society should not look down upon any men doing that. I think that will encourage them to do it, because that then encourages a woman to perform multifold in her career. So those two aspects.
Yeah. And that's again something that needs to start young. We need to engage young boys in household chores, in caregiving acts, and the most common being stop saying that boys don't cry and everything else,
Absolutely.
what we believe to be manhood. So yeah, masculinities and manhood. So you're absolutely right. We need to start very young. So this has been very interesting. Does anyone have anything else to share that we haven't had a chance to talk about? Great, awesome. I'm going to quickly check for questions, and if we have anything that, this is a good time to look at the questions. And right, so, and while I do that, I'll say that I am the mother to a boy, and it's been a huge responsibility to raise a son being a feminist myself, so that I'm not just preaching to the others. And he's an 18-year-old, and I don't think we have single day goes by when we have meals on the dinner table when we are not having these conversations. And I do hear a great deal of "you're going over the top now," and and at the same time, I do see a lot of feminist, perspectives coming from him himself. I'm told in school he also takes on the mantle of being the feminist and challenging biases all the time. So I think yes, it's a tough path, but you have to take that path on. And
I totally agree, Anu and Rubina. The journey starts at home, and I myself am a father of two boys, and in our family of primary male members, for all practical purposes, there are defined days where my wife will not get into the kitchen. There are chores that my elder son would do or my younger son would do, chopping vegetables, chopping stuff, or assembling stuff for all practical purposes, just making sure
yes,
that they're not biased towards getting into the kitchen because that's not supposed to be where a man goes.
Yes, absolutely. And what happens is that what they see the time that they were born as being done by the dad in the house is something they will adapt to the fastest without any rebellion. If I may use the word, because that happens too with kids, right? So I have some challenges from people here. I choose to challenge organizations to design, adopt flexible programs for women at the initial stage, early childcare, health recovery, in order to ensure we don't need return to work programs for women. I think that's amazing.
So I would like to change that a bit and change that a bit to not make it a very woman specific program. It should be an all gender program. So when we say there is a woman will go for a 6 month or a 1 year maternity leave, that should not create an inherent bias about hiring a woman in the first place.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Another one coming up. Do you think return to work programs should also consider women who don't have much career break but took a sabbatical?
I think I think absolutely agree. We should have more programs that also consider women on a sabbatical, because sometimes they are doing that to gain a higher degree, a better education, and definitely they are more valuable in the workspace after that. So
Yes,
totally agree.
absolutely. I choose to challenge and call out gender bias and inequality. I choose to also acknowledge the amazing men and women around us who have done everything possible to empower us to. Let us continue, choose to challenge the status quo and make a difference. Happy Women's Day. I think that's a great thought too. Yes. Any others, folks? Any questions? I think it's the coffee that people must need right now when we are slowing down on the questions here. Rucha, do we have any questions?
I think we just had comments which we have shown. I'm just searching for, there were lots of comments, I'm just searching them.
Right, sure.
While we are waiting, another piece that
Right.
I find, sorry, I was
Go
saying,
ahead.
while we are another thing a lot of companies end up doing is do this flash in the pan initiative around Women's Day to say, hey, we have to celebrate Women's Day, we will do a returners program, and then forget all about it till the next Women's Day comes. We need to make
Right.
this a part of the
Yes, sure.
regular pipeline uh, throughout the year rather than the flavor of the
Yeah,
season initiative.
yeah. There's this pressure to launch a new initiative this month, whereas I feel that we should take a break in March from the initiative, because anyway it's the last month of the financial year and we should do something the whole year. But I do have a question, and I can ask some of you here that what is the whole thing about women who return back and succeed at the workplace? Sometimes I hear of reports from other community members that women who have taken a break and gone back sometimes don't want to sort of show or talk about the fact that they actually took a break. Why do you think that is? Himangani or Simar or anyone who you think you can address?
So, Anupama, I'm not sure, because what I found actually has been the experience to the contrary, and I'm one of those success stories to that extent. Because after, I think, about 10 years in the corporate world, I actually took a career break and then went back to work. And it's something that I choose to actually speak about very often to the young girls in our company, to people who go on maternity leave, because we again have a flexi working program after that, to encourage them to come back to work, and then to speak about their stories to others, to inspire others. So I have not really faced so much of the instances that you're talking about, Anupama.
Right, right. So what my sources tell me is that when women tend to do that sometimes is because there still is some sort of a taboo around a career break, that it might impact the perception of you being an ambitious career professional, and that's why women tend to not hide as much, but not talk about it as much. There's another question here. Do you think more companies should make it mandatory to have childcare system at offices, and so it makes it easy women to join back, or I would say not leave?
So in some states, it's already mandatory. So like
Yes.
Karnataka, you have to, as a requirement, you have to provide childcare in the office or in the vicinity. I don't know if it is same requirement in every state. Could there be something around that? Because definitely childcare is one of the big primary reasons, or one of the big primary care responsibilities, especially 0 to 5, 0 to 10,
Right.
early age.
Right. In fact, this was the amendment to the Maternity Act a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So great. It's been an awesome interaction and a different perspective shared around Women's Day. And while I am very, very proud to mark this historic day and celebrate it, nothing means more to me than to celebrate it in a meaningful fashion in which we talk about where we are vis-a-vis women's rights, especially economic rights in Indian workplaces today. So thank you so much to each one of you for sharing your candid observations. And I hope that this platform has served also as an opportunity for all of you to probably reach out and share best practices and do more for the women working in India today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.